everyone, I'm Soju, and today I'm going to be sharing with you 10 farm ideas in case you want to improve some of your farms in your world. So yeah, that's that's the intro, so let's get started. So first farm that I have for you is some lily pads on the water. I left a guide here in case you want to follow the same shape that I did. I just made a decent sized circle and used lime green and green terracotta for this. The dirt is technically on the same level as the water, so you don't have to place any additional water and just keep it all just dirt. I made a little hole as well just so you can actually enter to the crops, and it also makes the shape of the lily pad. And then finally I just got rid of the guide and replaced it with a green terracotta. And just to show you, I made a couple of more lily pads. So I made a tiny little one using the darker green terracotta, and then I was struggling with the spacing, but I made another lily pad the same size as the first one. The only difference is that I got rid of the corner instead of like the front side of the circle, if that makes sense, and made a diagonal shape for the lily pad. So that's it. But for now, I'm gonna pass you on to Pass Me so she can give you a tiny tour of the farm itself. So I'll see you there. So you saw for the first farm, these are the lily pads. I ended up connecting them all with like actual lily pads. You kind of have to parkour your way through, but I think it's fine. Otherwise, I think you can connect it up with a bridge or like stepping stones. I think it would work really well. But yeah, I really do like the look of these, especially if your base is themed around like an enchanted forest or like fairies. I think these farms will look really, really good. So okay, that's the first idea. Let's go on to the next one. This next one is super easy. I started off by making a round shape, not necessarily a circle. And what I like about this one is you can switch it up with any type of block, basically. You can switch it up with any wood type or even some of the stones because they have stairs and slabs, even walls, so you can use that instead of fences. And I went around just placing some stairs, some slabs, just randomly throughout, kind of making it look a little bit messy. And then I went around the outside also placing some slabs just to blend it in a little bit more with the terrain. Once that was done, I hid all of the water underneath the logs just so we can have a solid space for the crops. But you can see in the middle that part wasn't hydrated, so I placed an additional log with a lantern on top just so I can hide the water underneath. And other than that, I think that was it. All that's left is to place in your crops, and I really do like this one. I'm gonna end up saying that about all of these, but I really do like them. This one I think is hands down one of my favorite ones. It's really easy to make, it's efficient, and you can change up the blocks with truly any type of block. So yeah, even though there's not much to this one, I think this one fits a lot of styles. Anyways, that's it from this one, so let's go on to the next idea. This third idea I think is really good to integrate some of the landscape around you. You just need to find a hill. It doesn't really matter the height, as long as it's tall enough to make a staircase like this one. I really just used slabs and I made it curve a little bit just so we can place the farms a little bit later. I went in with some tough bricks. I already know I'm gonna get a lot of tough jokes about this one, but either way, I just went around the edges of the staircase itself, matching it with the correspondent height of the stairs. Just make sure to not leave any dirt underneath the tough bricks, otherwise it can look a little bit weird. But for the farm itself, I just made like a somewhat round-ish shape and did the exact same process with the tough bricks, just going from the dirt itself all the way down to the floor. I again hid some of the water in between the bricks and the dirt. There was just like a single block that was dry, so I ended up just placing a waterlogged trapdoor with a lantern on top. So that was one farm. You can make however many you like. There was this little space on the other side, so I decided to make a second one following the exact same process, and the end result, I feel like it looks really cool. I think I made a TikTok or like a YouTube shorts doing this one for the first time, like I don't know, maybe like a year ago, and it's one of the first videos of mine that did really well. So if you haven't seen that and you're watching this video, here it is again. This one is also up there with one of my favorites. It just really works with any type of build. When I built it in my survival world, this was the path leading up to my house, so I built my house like on top of a hill like this, and I got a lot of compliments on it. So yeah, I just needed to share this one with you. And just a reminder, if you do want to build this, make sure to light up the inside. I didn't right here, but yeah, it's oh, there's a pig. Either way, the water blocks a lot of the spawns, but just in case, you know, a couple churches never hurts. Just for my peace of mind, let me save this guy. I didn't know he was in here. There we go. Be free. Okay, that's it for this one. Let's go on to the next idea. This next one I think might be the most complicated out of all of these ideas. Well, not really complicated. I think there's just a lot going on. So to start, I went from the top and made a staircase going down, and I went around the middle of the staircase and I placed that first log. I made the pillar one block taller than the staircase itself, just so we can create a railing for their farms later. Then I created another set of pillars, and all of them are 4 blocks in between, just so everything's symmetrical. And for the bottom layer of the logs, I placed the first pillar on the edge of the staircase staircase at the bottom. I think I went like 4 blocks up, and I just followed the same pattern that I did for the first set of pillars. And from then on, I just decorated. So I used some spruce stairs and trapdoors just to round off all of the corners of the pillars, and some additional trapdoors where all the pillars intersect. And for the water, because it's all open, I ended up just making like a hole. You can barely tell in the clip. I made a hole in the middle of the dirt patch. I placed a slab just so nothing drips down, waterlogged it, and then placed a lily pad on top. I did that for all 4 farms. And for the last step, I just placed all of the crops in. Again, if your house is on top of a hill, this one's a great idea if you want to have your crops nearby. I really like having the staircase in the middle. I feel like it works best, but I feel like it would also look good if you unify these 2 blocks together and then place 2 staircases on either end. I don't know if I explained my vision correctly, but I think that will be a good alternative too. So yeah, I have no idea what number this was, but let's go on to the next idea. This next one is also on the water. So I made a tiny little staircase. It's just 2 blocks tall, and I connected that to their first farm. I made a smaller one. This is just a 5x5, but max I would go maybe like a 9x9 just so you have one source of water and you don't have to worry about like hydrating everything. So that dirt, I just surrounded it with logs and created pillars just to go all the way down to the water, and then you can go into whichever direction that you want. So the next farm is just 2 blocks above, also with that tiny little staircase, and I just followed that same thing, just surrounding the dirt with logs, and then a final set of farm down at the bottom. This time I went 2 blocks down. Oh, almost forgot. For the water, I went on the underside of the dirt and placed a trapdoor, placed the water inside, and then a waterlogged trapdoor on top, just so we can place the lantern as well. But yeah, this one was super simple to make. In creative, it took me like 5 minutes to make, so if you gather all the resources, it shouldn't take you too long. This one right here, I feel like it's perfect for those who like to build on top of the water. But yeah, I just really like having the crops on different levels. I feel like they look so good like this, and you can separate your crops like I did. So wheat, potatoes, and carrots up here. So yeah, if you like building on top of the water, this one's for you. Otherwise, let's go on to the next idea. Ooh, this is the bee one, so I really like this one. I like to do this one next to any body of water and then create a really organic shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just like to make it somewhat round. And for this, I'm going for like a ruins type of vibe. So I ended up placing a bunch of stairs, slabs, and also walls just so it looks more worn down. I like to have a path going all the way through the middle, and then whatever dirt is left on the side, that's going to be where you place the crops. I hid a bunch of the water underneath the stone, but also underneath the dirt layer. But you can see as I'm tilling some of the dirt, I am leaving some grass patches because we're going to be placing some flowers right there. And there's also some patches that won't hydrate. So to solve that, I'm going to place water underneath the campfires that I'm placing. And the campfires is just so we can have a bee's nest on top. And that way it kind of doubles as a bee farm in case you want to gather some occasional honey or honeycomb. But what I really like about this one is that bees have like a slight chance of dropping some of the pollen that they grab from the flowers onto the crops, and it kind of works like bone meal. That's why I placed the flowers in the middle, just so they have to go across the crops. But yeah, I really do like this one. I think this one's the most useful one out of all of these farms. Tiny tour. I really do like this one. So let's see if I can catch any bees like pollinating. And I used to do this type of farm a lot when they first added bees. Oh, there we go. Do you see the particle? So yeah, this one's really cute. I really like having the bees just roaming around. But okay, let's go on to the next idea. This one is my attempt of a villager farm. So I kept it really simple. I made a 6x9 square of dirt. I surrounded the entire thing with upside down cobblestone stairs. And on the corners, I just placed 2 logs. For the fencing, I used some cobblestone walls next to the logs, but except the ones that are next to the staircase, I hid the water underneath that log in the middle. And I like how it includes a composter in the staircase. I really do like this one. This one you might recognize it if you saw my video on the Plains Village revamp. I did change a couple things just so it's more starter friendly. You can definitely just leave out the mossy cobblestone if you don't have any. I really like how this one includes a composter, just because you never know when you're gonna need it. You might get too many seeds, and it doesn't hurt to have a couple pieces of bone meal here and there. So anyways, let's go on to the next idea. This was the only one on the list that's different. I made this one for pumpkins, but it works the same way with melons. So I made like a blob shape using some oak and spruce leaves. I tried to intertwine both leaf types just so it looks a little bit messy. And for the water, it doesn't really matter where you place it. I ended up placing only 2 water sources. Then I used some potsoil and coarse dirt just really messily throughout the entire thing. I tilled some dirt pretty randomly throughout. This way the pumpkin has like multiple places where it can grow the actual pumpkin block. This one might not be the most efficient out of all of these, but either way, it's still pretty nice to have, and I just had to include it because it's October. This is the only different one, but you know, pumpkins are crops too. You can do this with melons, but you you know, in the spirit of Halloween and fall, why not have a little pumpkin patch in your world? So yeah, even though this one might not be the most efficient, it's still a great way of adding a little bit more life into your world. Bonus points if you include a scarecrow like I did. That being said, let's go on to the next idea. So second to last, while looking for ideas, I noticed that a lot of crop farms tend to have like some sort of covering from the sun that still lets some light through. So I tried to do something similar. So I created some arches. They're all 3 blocks apart. I left the guide there in case you want to follow what I did. And this one's super expandable. If you want to make it larger, you can just add more arches to make it whatever size you like. And to connect all of the leaves together, I ended up using some fence gates. So fence gates at the very bottom, the top of that first pillar, on the very corner, and then in the middle, I included 3 rows of fence gates. I also replaced some of the fence gates in the middle with fences so we can place some lanterns later on, and that's just going to make sure that everything is well lit. And for the crops itself, I just made sure that there was enough space to place a path in the middle, and then the rest of it I just covered it with crops, and the final finishing touch was just a composter in the middle. I made this one because I noticed I didn't have any coverings on any of the other farms, but I really like how this one turns out. And if you use shaders like I am, I really like all the shadows that this creates, and also the leaves do create some particles going down. There we go. Here's one. So it makes this farm look and feel a little bit more cozy, and I also do like that it's very expandable. You just have to repeat the same pattern over and over. So yeah, that being said, I think we're going on to the last one, I think. So yeah, see you there. So final idea that I have for you today. So for this one, you're also gonna need a slight hill, and I started off by creating some rings all in different levels going down. None of them are perfect. They're supposed to be somewhat organic, and I mean like organic in their shapes but also in their placing. And as usual, I just filled everything in with dirt. This time I hid some water in between the dirt just to really make sure that everything's well hydrated, but if it's not, it doesn't really matter because we're gonna be adding a waterfall to this one. So for the waterfall, I think this is why you need a hill for this, and it's a very skinny waterfall. It's like a stream at that point. It truly is just like 1 block wide, and I made it go through at least most of the layers of the dirt and redirecting it towards the bottom where I created a tiny little pond. You can of course make the pond like its own thing, but for this I just really needed somewhere for the water to land. So once the waterfall is done, I placed in my crops, and everything else was just decoration. I placed a couple of bushes throughout using some azalea leaves. To blend in the terrain, I used some moss and coarse dirt, almost like in patches throughout the entire thing. I placed some lanterns on top of some fences, and then finally just some flowers to add some detail. And that's pretty much it. I feel like I saved one of the best ones for last. Last but not least, this one's also one of my top 3. I really do like the waterfall feature, and I think you can include a good staircase going around the side over here. I think that would really complement the entire farm. So overall, I really hope you enjoyed these farm ideas. Hopefully I did inspire you to make at least one of these in your world. So let me know what you think. If there's any other ideas that you've come up with, make sure to leave it in the comments. I really liked reading all the comments and everything. So okay, that's it from me. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.